Okay, let's continue on with regards to competition and positioning. So we're going to talk about organizational positioning now. As you can see on this chart, this goes from niche market down to Me Too's, or from innovators to late adopters. So basically, when you look at, or when you talk about businesses, only 2% of businesses are innovators coming up with a new idea. But out of those 2%, there is then another group who then think, oh, actually, this is a really good idea, and we can adopt this. And after that, you then have the same, same amount as where people positioning themselves as early majority or late majority. So someone then jumping on the bandwagon, challenging for leadership, rather than just following what everyone else is doing, and trying the tried and tested. And you then, but the other thing you have then is, all the tried and tested, and actually, it works. So we could adopt this now too. So you have sort of the Me Too, and it works for me, and it works for you, works for me. So you've got the late adopters. All of them have obviously pros and cons. So if you look about the innovators, it might still be expensive. It's new. Customers are a bit, do we want this product? Is it worth it? Is it just a fad? Is it staying in the market? Are other people going to offer it at maybe much cheaper price? And the late adopters as well. When you think, it's tried and tested, so it's great. But actually, what are you offering? You're not offering anything new. You're offering, the same product as maybe the early majority or the early adopters. But what are you giving me anything extra? No, you're not. You're just doing something because everyone is doing it. If no one was doing it, would you have actually had the idea to do it? So you've got your market leadership with the innovators. Leadership, people who challenge this leadership. Again, it goes all about leadership challenges, followers, and then well, not your niche, but you've got your Me Too. We're going to do it where you can, I can do as well. Now, one of the other models I like you to look at, because you need that for your assignment, is Porter's competitive industry analysis. So the 5 forces model, and the 5 forces model basically deals with your industry rivals. You sit right at the center of your 5 forces model. So if you think about the organization you're choosing for your assessment, who are the rivals for your for that organization? And then who are the potential entrants? You think about globalization. Who could come in from outside the from outside the UK, from outside the market? And then the buyer. Don't underestimate your customers. The customers are very, very strong. I said before, word of mouth. If they don't like something, they don't buy it. If they like it, they obviously tell their friends about it. They can destroy an image. Think back to social networking there as well. So the buyer power is huge. Are there any substitutes? So maybe not in your market segment. So if you think about, let's say you talk about luxury hotels, you've got your industry rivalry within your luxury hotels, but are there any substitutes? So if you think about boutique hotels, for example, could they be a substitute for luxury hotels? So people like that. And then obviously you have to think about your suppliers as well. What do you offer your suppliers? What does your industry rival offer your suppliers as well? So all these 5 forces all influence your competitiveness in the market. If your suppliers decide to go to your rival rather than supplying you for whatever reason, you need to find a new supplier. Are they as reliable? Are they as good? Are they as fresh? If someone finds a substitute for your service or your product, what do? What do you have to do? What's the threat there from substitutes? So these are the things you have to think about when you talk about your organization for your assessment as well. And what you then have to identify, there are 5 key areas basically. So it's your competitive rivalry. So it's very intense when it's all about small businesses. So when there are a lot of small competitors on the market, obviously your competitive rivalry is very intense. Or when there are a few competitors on the market as well, because if your customers don't have a big massive choice, then you are obviously competing there as well. Potential entrants, companies that might enter the market, increase level of competition. So think internationally new companies, people like that. Threat of substitutes. As I said, so if you look at this example here, tea and coffee are fairly close substitutes. So one person drinks coffee, the other one drinks tea. So what? So that's one example. If you think about the hospitality industry, if you think of as the luxury market, maybe that's another, like boutique hotels that could be substituted for staying in a 5-star. And then all about price and image as well. And then entry barriers. Okay, so if we just go back, your entry barriers would come under your under your suppliers. So why are there any barriers for new firms to come into your market? I don't know, legal aspects, ban from entering the UK, not worth it investing into the UK, trade barriers, access, stuff like that. So these are the things that you have to think about when you think about the 5 forces model there as well. What you then have to do, you've got to sort of predict marketing strategies. So what are your rivals going to do when you do something? And very often it's, you can't speculate, but it's based on previous information. So it's either we change and they change, we change and they stay, they change and we stay, and they stay and we change. So this is where you have to have a close look at your competitors and what they do, because if you lose sight of your competitors, that's a very bad thing, and you don't know what strategies you have to apply in order for your customers to choose your product over someone else's. And there's the reaction competitors have is they are either cheap and believe that customers will stay loyal. Well, nowadays I don't think we're very fickle. If we don't like something, we go somewhere else. If I as a customer don't like the way I'm treated in Sainsbury's, I go to Morrison's. If I don't like Ryanair, it's a fact, everyone knows I don't like Ryanair. I don't fly with them. I would never stay loyal to Ryanair. I use them once, twice, that's it, I'm gone somewhere else. My friend doesn't like EasyJet. She's been flying with them loads of times, but she's had a lot of problems, whereas she was a loyal customer, she's not anymore. So, people change. If there's something better, cheaper on the market, people are going to go for it. Then there's the selector, who only reacts to certain attacks because other things might not affect them, or might not, bother them in the slightest. A tiger reacts to any attack, so anything their competitor does, they do differently, do the same, they react to. Erratic is like, shall I do it, shall I not? Let's see how it works out for the competition, and then we might change our strategy as well. And then factors affecting your competitive ability is obviously your finances. How good are your finances? Are you in debt? Are you making marketing? How good is your personnel? Do you have enough personnel? Are they positive? Are they motivated? How do they represent your company? If everyone within your organization just thinks, I don't like working here, I don't like getting up at 6 o'clock, the wages aren't good, they don't do anything for staff to the customer as well. And especially when you talk about frontline staff, so you have to make sure that your person, you have enough staff, but also that your personnel is motivated and carries your image, because your brand, your image, and doesn't just completely destroy that. Product, what's the price versus quality, how reliable is your product, or obviously your service as well. And then your marketing, how good are your marketing campaigns? I don't know if you remember, but BT had to pull their marketing campaign on super fast broadband, and they had to adjust that because it was misleading, as in everyone is going to have super fast broadband in, I don't know, in 2 years or in a year, and it's available to everyone. It's not, so they had to sort of change it as well, because obviously you need to have certain modem there as well. So how well does your marketing work? Does it increase the sales? How is it delivered? Also, what's your after-sales service? What's your customer service like? Do you care if someone, for example, especially when you're selling a product, if someone buys a car, do you care how they get on with the car, or do you just let them, drive it around and then that's it? And then obviously again, how big is your market share as well? Now, just to summarize, there's a need to take a close look at competitors. Your competitors might not always be obvious, because they are not always the ones that are just there and offering the same products. So competitors can offer different products as well to different people. A competitive advantage can vanish very quickly, so you have to make sure you always have the advantage over someone else. And a price is a dangerous tool to use, because if your customers don't like your pricing, if they see it too expensive, or also if they see it too cheap. You can offer something too cheap, and then people think, oh, you don't get the quality, you don't get the service you deserve. You have to be very careful there when it comes to pricing and how you set your price as well. With regard, also if you go too low, too much lower than your competitor, or too high than your competitor, or if you're too high then compared to your competitor as well.